I've been covering quarterback situations in the NFL long enough to recognize when something is being manufactured versus when something is actually happening. And I want to be honest with you about where I stand right now, because this is not a story I expected to be telling with this kind of urgency this early. 3 days into rookie minicamp, 3 days, and what is coming out of Berea, Ohio is making me rethink assumptions I walked into this offseason, holding with real confidence. Shedeur Sanders is not adjusting to the NFL. He is not surviving it. He is operating inside it, with a fluency and a calmness that I have genuinely not seen from a quarterback at this stage in years. And I think the full weight of what that means for this franchise is only beginning to register. Let me give you the number first, and then let me tell you why the number undersells the actual story. 80% completions in 11-on-11 work on day 3 of his professional career. If you processed that and moved on, go back and sit with it. 11-on-11 is not a quarterback throwing routes against air in a hoodie during individual drills. It is not a controlled skeleton period where defensive backs are following assignments at half speed. It is as close to a real football game as a practice field can produce. There are defensive backs who have studied every receiver's tendencies. There are linebackers holding coverage keys until the last possible moment. There are guys out there whose entire job in that rep is to create confusion and force an error, and they are getting paid specifically to do it well. In that environment, in the most competitive, most complex practice setting that exists, Shedeur Sanders completed 8 out of every 10 passes he attempted on his 3rd day of professional football. I want to tell you what most rookie quarterbacks actually look like in that same environment, because the contrast is the most honest way to communicate what is unusual here. Most first-year quarterbacks arrive at minicamp carrying what looks like confidence on the surface, but is actually managed anxiety. They have prepared. They have spent months with private coaches, studying film, building familiarity with a new system, and they still get on that field and feel the NFL close around them. The timing windows that are a half-second tighter than college, the defensive disguises that are more deliberate, the mental load of processing a secondary, communicating a protection, and delivering an accurate ball all within a few heartbeats, and it overwhelms them. Not catastrophically, but visibly. There is a lag, a hesitation, a moment where the intellectual process is catching up to the physical execution. Coaching staffs expect this. They build it into their evaluation timelines. Todd Monken did not get that version of Shedeur Sanders. He got a player who showed up on day 1, performing like someone who had been rehearsing for this exact test for the better part of a year. Monken's decision to place him in 11-on-11 work immediately tells you something precise about how the staff was thinking. You do not make that call to be generous or give a top pick a gentle on-ramp. You make it because you have a hypothesis about a player's readiness that needs stress testing as quickly as possible. Monken wanted real information fast. He wanted to watch Shedeur compete against genuine resistance, not showcase against managed environments. And what the film captured clearly accelerated certain internal conversations. The specific play I cannot stop thinking about doesn't have the visual drama of a touchdown or a deep ball. It looks almost routine until you understand what is happening at the cognitive level before the snap. Shedeur tilts right, eyes already scanning the defensive backfield before the ball reaches his hands. He is building a pre-snap picture, reading corner leverage, safety depth, linebacker alignment, constructing a map of where the vulnerabilities will open before the play technically starts. The snap happens. He processes left. The ball is already out, not slightly early, already gone, thrown to a location, not a body, before the route finishes breaking. The receiver catches it in full stride without adjusting a single step. That last detail matters most. A receiver catching in perfect stride without breaking step means the quarterback did all the hard analytical work up front. That is anticipatory throwing. That speed of processing only arrives when an offense has been internalized so deeply that thought and action collapse into a single movement. Now I have to address the arm strength conversation directly, because it has been real and it has involved people whose opinions I respect. The concern was legitimate. Serious evaluators who watched his college film and wondered whether the velocity would translate to a field where windows are even tighter. I understood that concern coming in. And then Shedeur stood in the pocket during the deep ball portion of practice and threw a football on a trajectory that ended with a receiver making a catch in a spot that gave a trailing cornerback no reasonable chance. Touch, trajectory, velocity, all 3. Not 2 out of 3, which is what you sometimes see from a quarterback managing a physical limitation through elite mechanics. All 3 simultaneously. When those elements are all present on a downfield ball, you are watching a quarterback who can genuinely threaten a defense vertically, force a safety to shift his depth, and open the intermediate game underneath. Cleveland has been waiting a very long time for a quarterback who could make that threat credible. What Shedeur showed in that moment was that it is real. The touchdown on the left side is the play I keep returning to when I try to find the single word that most accurately describes what Shedeur is projecting right now. He leans forward into the pocket, weight committed to the throw, not retreating from any sense of phantom pressure, and reads the left side of the field with patience that looks almost unhurried until you realize how much information he is processing inside 2 seconds. He finds the route opening, trusts it completely, delivers the ball in stride with placement that makes the catch look effortless. Except that effortless catches are almost always the product of a quarterback who did tremendous work before the ball left his hand. The word I keep landing on is conviction. Not performed conviction, not the studied confidence some young players manufacture because projecting belief is part of the job description, the kind that operates below conscious decision-making, the kind that only exists when preparation has gone deep enough that trusting yourself is no longer a choice. You watch that play and understand that Shedeur Sanders has not simply memorized this offense, he has made it part of how he thinks. I want to make sure the receiver dimension gets proper attention because quarterback-receiver chemistry gets treated as something atmospheric in most football coverage, a warm narrative element rather than a concrete operational variable. That framing is wrong. Chemistry between a quarterback and his receivers determines whether routes get thrown to bodies or to locations. It determines whether a timing route can function as a true timing route, ball arriving before the window fully opens, or whether it converts into a reaction throw because the quarterback isn't certain enough of his receiver's tendencies to commit early. The only path to genuine chemistry is sustained daily work together inside the same system. There is no shortcut. What the reports from that field describe is not promising early familiarity. It is the specific, technically grounded connection that develops when a quarterback has studied his receiver's releases deeply enough to project their positioning, rather than waiting for visual confirmation of separation. Shedeur was throwing to spots, to where he trusted Concepcion would be based on route concept and corner alignment, not waiting for daylight before committing. Concepcion's technical precision as a route runner complements exactly what Shedeur does best. Boston adds contested catch physicality in the red zone and along the boundary. Monken did not assemble that group generically. He built it around a specific offensive vision, and Shedeur Sanders is the quarterback that vision was engineered to serve, which forces me to talk about Monken directly because his role in this story is being underweighted. The coaching change in Cleveland is not background context for a quarterback competition. It is the central mechanism that makes everything else structurally possible. Monken arrived without carrying organizational debt to decisions made before he got there. He does not owe the Deshaun Watson contract a starting job. His entire professional purpose is singular. Find the best available quarterback through honest evaluation and build the most competitive offense around that player. And the way he has structured the environment tells you precisely how he sees this unfolding. The helmet cameras are the detail that keeps pulling at me. Monken installed cameras inside his quarterbacks' helmets specifically to study their visual processing, the eye movement, the coverage reads, the decision sequence that unfolds in the fraction of a second between identifying a defensive look and releasing the football. That is not a standard coaching tool. That is not something you implement as part of a generic evaluation framework. You build that kind of analytical infrastructure for the player whose development you have taken personal professional ownership of. When Monken is sitting with film of Shedeur's eye movement after practice, breaking down the sequence of his reads at that level of detail, that is not competition management. That is a coach who has already decided something and is working on the details of execution. And then there is Deshaun Watson. I am not going to avoid this because it is uncomfortable. Watson is not at that facility. He is not on the practice field building timing with Concepcion in Boston. He is not working through the daily conceptual synchronization that happens when a quarterback and his receivers spend hours inside the same system, repping the same route combinations until anticipatory connection forms. He is not accumulating the developmental currency that determines whether a quarterback and an offense are ready for week one, because that currency only gets earned through presence and repetition. And none of that is happening on his behalf right now. Every throw Shedeur makes is a throw Watson is not making. Every connection refined between Shedeur and these receivers is a connection Watson is not building. Watson has a contract and an established history, but contracts don't build route timing. History doesn't earn trust inside a new system. Daily work does. And right now, only one of these two quarterbacks is doing it. The gap between them is not theoretical. It is being created through real football repetitions in real time, and it grows wider with every practice. What Shedeur said after practice is being read too quickly by most of the coverage. The way he talked about Monken, The specificity of his enthusiasm, how he described the coaching staff's investment in individual detail, was not a press conference answer built to satisfy media obligations. That was a player describing an environment that is genuinely giving him what he needs, doing it in a way that was unguarded enough to be credible. Young quarterbacks in high-profile situations tend toward one of two performances in front of cameras: manufactured confidence or performed detachment. Shedeur did neither. He was direct, grounded, specific. The kind of specific that only comes from actually experiencing something rather than constructing a narrative around it. When a player talks about his coaching staff with that quality of authentic engagement 3 days into his professional career, that is not media strategy. That is a player telling you what it actually feels like inside that building. And then he addressed his critics. Without anger, without the visible irritation that signals the noise is actually penetrating, without the performed indifference that everyone in the room recognizes as its opposite. He said plainly that people who genuinely want this team to win should be pushing in the same direction as the players trying to make it happen. He made his point with precision, acknowledged the conversation without being consumed by it, and redirected immediately toward football. That sequence, acknowledge, respond with clarity, release, is the behavioral fingerprint of a person who has genuinely processed his external environment rather than being managed by it. He can hold the pressure and the competitive focus simultaneously and know without confusion which one determines what happens when the ball is snapped. That is not a skill most 22-year-old quarterbacks arrive in the NFL possessing. It is either built through sustained high-pressure experience or it is simply who someone is. Either way, it is not nothing. Pull all of this back and look at it together. An 80% completion rate in the most competitive practice setting available on day 3. A downfield throw that ended a credible conversation about physical limitations with a single rep. Technically grounded, anticipatory chemistry with 2 new receivers that looks nothing like the surface-level familiarity of early camps. A head coach building custom analytical tools specifically around his development. Investment that signals commitment rather than open competition. A media moment demonstrating emotional clarity and leadership confidence at a stage when most players default to deflection, and a counterpart who is absent, not accumulating, not building anything inside this system right now. The picture those pieces draw together is not ambiguous. It is not primarily about what any official statement has said. It is about what is actually happening on that practice field every day. The gradual, rep-by-rep construction of an offense around a quarterback who is earning it in real time, with the full investment of a staff that gives every indication of already knowing where this is heading. Cleveland has not made an announcement, but the work being done in Berea is its own kind of statement, more durable than a headline, more convincing than anything said in front of a microphone. The statement is on film, it belongs to Shedeur Sanders, and it is accumulating every single day.